Good morning or good afternoon. It's Matt Coleman here, one of the co-founders of Magnify World from Los Angeles. In our executive interview schedule, we have today a very special guest from Los Angeles as well, Joanna Popper, the global head of virtual reality and location-based entertainment and go-to-market strategy. A couple of titles in there, Joanna. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you today?
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. Really looking forward to talking about what's new at HP, and we know you've got a new product coming out, but also we wanted to talk about, you know, what's happening in the world of location-based entertainment. And can you tell us about, you've been with HP now for a few years, and you're also one of the top 50 women in digital in the US. So congratulations as well. And
Thank you.
Previously, I know you were at Singularity University, I should say, which touched on AR and VR and things like that. What are some of the things you've learned between, you know, in the last 5 or 6 years that you've brought into HP? This is an exciting area, location-based entertainment.
It is a really exciting area. Yes. Well, 5 years ago, I was still at NBC Universal. I was at NBC Universal from 2007 to 2015 and heading up consumer marketing for one of the NBC Universal brands, Telemundo. So leading out all of our initiatives around advertising and social and digital, you know, advertising during the growth, really, and a lot of huge amount of change in the digital landscape, as well as, and you know, how we marketed, how our audiences interacted with our content, and how we distributed our content radically shifted during that time period. So when I was thinking about what was next for me, you know, I had been really excited about the content creation, and I'd also been really excited about the way that our, you know, the fast-pacing, changing, dynamic world of the digital landscape. And so I ended up having an opportunity to move to San Francisco and move to Silicon Valley and head up media and marketing for Singularity University. And so I actually originally had been exposed to VR and AR when I was at NBC Universal. We had a day with one of our agencies, our digital agency, who you know, brought out all of the technology for us to check out and have all of the different content experiences that were available at the time. And you know, was really intrigued. And then when I was working in Silicon Valley, had a lot of exposure to, you know, all of the lots of different innovations and what was happening in the world, and realized that it was that intersection of media and tech that was the most interesting to me. And so started thinking about moving into VR as a career. And so I started what I called like my 30 coffees, where I started, you know, just talking to everyone who I could get, who would talk to me, who worked in the field, whether it was a real coffee or a LinkedIn coffee or a phone call, and going and trying to see as much of the content as possible. And so went to a lot of the same conferences I was already going to as a media exec or as a tech exec, you know, for CES or South by Southwest or Sundance, but you know, went with the intention of seeing as much virtual reality and being exposed to as much virtual reality as possible. And so what I would say, you know, and not that long after that, HP found me, and here I am, about a little over 2.5 years later. And so what I would say, you know, what I brought into the role was a long career in marketing, a long career in building out new digital platforms and frontier of whether it's a technology or an audience or a market. You know, I actually started my career working in Wall Street in emerging markets. And, you know, so that's an emerging market. And then I worked in, and I spent a lot of time working in marketing roles in Latin America, which is, you know, emerging markets, and then moved to Telemundo, which is focused on emerging audiences, you know, US Hispanic in the United States, and then moved at Singularity, was focused on emerging technologies and exponential technologies. So always like looking at kind of what's new, what's coming in a different audience, in a different product, in a different way. And so you know, it was marketing, it was emerging products, emerging audiences, and then you know, on the location-based entertainment side, having been in NBC Universal for a long time, we had worked really closely with our theme parks, with our films, and with our television networks and our cable channels and all of our digital properties. So all of that in one way or another kind of goes into VR. And then from Singularity University brought, that strong focus on exponential technology. So
it sounds like you're a perfect fit to me.
I love working in VR. I love it so much. I love that we're building the next wave of computing, and we're building that next wave of media and tech, right? So, I believe really deeply in the power of media and technology to build our worlds, and to build our understanding of our worlds, and to build the way we interact with each other, the way we communicate, in some cases even the way we think about ourselves and our place in the world. And so I love being in this medium that is new as an industry. They're nascent as an industry. Now, of course, the technology has been around for a long time, but mainly in research institutions and in military environments, and not widely accessible for people. And so we're currently building the technology to be more widely accessible for people. And so I love being in it right now as we're making these critical decisions on the technology, on the standards and norms, on the types of content. It's exciting, and the people that work in this industry are amazing. People that are coming from engineering and gaming and immersive theater and television and visual effects and film and psychology and education and healthcare, illustration and it's just so many different areas. I probably missed some, but it's all, but design, so many different points of view and backgrounds coming together to build a new industry and to build this reality, this immersive computing. And so, as an industry, it's very imaginative. People are very creative, a lot of creative technologists, and have a bigger vision. People, for the most part, people aren't working in this industry because I fell into it and I've had this job for 30 years. It's like they're in it because they're passionate, because they want to build something new. They want to have an impact. They want to have a positive impact. The money's not quite there yet as an industry. So it's not so much people chasing just the financial impact, but it's people who want to build something bigger than themselves and want to have a positive impact.
Yeah, well, let's talk about enterprise versus consumer for a moment. You mentioned that, and I'd like to touch on after that different audiences, gamers, okay, millennials, to an older market as well, and what's really working for you. But there's some clear strategies from some of the other companies that they only go after enterprise. Obviously, HP is very consumer orientated as much as probably enterprise. You would know more than that than me. But what would be your answer to that? Because the new Reverb G2 is a gamer's headset with amazing resolution. I'm not sure whether I had seen that at one of the previous events late last year when you were previewing a headset. I can't recall which one that was, but has many people in the media seen this new headset? Because the quality is supposed to be incredible.
Yes. So the new headset is HP Reverb Generation 2. We teased it in March of this year, late March. It's a headset that is actually being created in collaboration between HP, Valve, and Microsoft. Valve is, if there are gamers out there, you certainly know Valve. Valve runs Steam and Steam VR, as well as makes the Valve Index. So they've been one of the pioneers in virtual reality. But anyone who does PC gaming knows Valve very well, loves their games, and also interacts on their Steam VR, so on Steam and Steam VR, so on their distribution system, on their platform. They launched Half-Life Alyx, which is probably one of the biggest VR games that was launched this year to date, and they launched that game on the end of March. So we announced our new collaboration with them, the new headset, on that same date, because there was a lot of excitement and a lot of media attention on that date. So we announced it then, and then we announced all the specs and the details, and when it's going to be shipping in the end of May, and we started pre-orders at that time. So we started pre-orders in the US, and we've been rolling out pre-orders in select countries around the world up to now. So to the question, have a lot of, so a couple questions were in there. If you saw a headset last year, and at the end of last year, it was probably the Reverb Generation 1, which we launched last summer. And then, have a lot of media been in this new headset yet? No, they haven't. There have been, some media has been in it. Ben Lang for Road to VR was in it right after we announced. He called it the King of Clarity because of the nearly photorealistic resolution that you mentioned. And then MRTV, Sebastian Ang has been in it, and he's made already like 17 videos about it. He is a independent YouTube content creator in Germany, and he has seemed to really, really like it. And so we love that. And he just keeps making video after video after video. And then there's a number of other press and are in the process of writing their reviews or making their videos about it. So that is very different than how it probably would have launched if we were not in a world that was impacted by COVID.
Yeah.
We would have had people in it, probably starting much earlier this year. We would have had press previews, in April and May, and we would have gone around, flying around the country, showing the headset to press, putting people in it in April and May, and we would have we were at AWE and VRARA Global Summit in May and June. We would have put thousands of people through the headset at that point, and industry, press, reviewers, gamers, just lots of people. But we were not able to do any of that, of course, and so we had to come up with a whole new way to approach it. And so we did a big, huge Zoom press call. We did a number of big events like AWE and VRARA, but in terms as a global, as a online version, virtual event. We did some stuff on Reddit, like some Ask Me Anythings on Reddit. We did Instagram Lives with G-Monk, who is a Z by HP ambassador, also one of the best known design directors in the world. What else did we do? Oh, we had a launch event in virtual reality. So we did a whole event because, we believe in drinking our own champagne. So we did a whole launch event inside AltSpace. AltSpace is a social VR platform owned by Microsoft. And so we were there with Alex Kipman from Microsoft. We had 3D versions of the headset. You could take your selfie inside with the headset. So that was super fun. We had a step and repeat in VR. So we've done a whole bunch of different things that, because with virtual reality, the most important thing is like being in the headset and trying it out and seeing that super high resolution, seeing the amazing content, seeing, how comfortable it is. And, I see, checking the IPD manual adjust, checking out the new audio from Valve, seeing the new lenses that are Valve designed. And so, we can't do that today for most people. And so it's all about, figuring out how to connect with audiences without that physical touch, and still having people be excited to do the pre-orders. So it's been a fun and interesting go-to-market challenge, let's say.
Yeah, no, that's great.
And then earlier you asked about enterprise and gaming. Yeah. So I mean, HP as a whole, we have a strong enterprise focus, but we also, of course, have consumer focus. And so the Reverb Generation 1 ended up being mainly for enterprise, and enterprise being architecture, engineering, construction, product dev, healthcare, as well as higher education, enterprise training, and then, of course, location-based entertainment. And then a lot of gamers actually did like it, and they used it for flight simulation or racing simulation gaming. Now this headset with Valve coming in with us, we expect to be a lot more gamers, and because of the Valve brand, the Valve seal of approval, but we also still have, heavy enterprise training interest and heavy location-based entertainment interest and some of the other enterprise areas.
And excellent. So I hear that the sound quality, the over-the-ear sound quality is fantastic as well. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience? Is it like a 360 sound where you move and you might hear something from behind you or in front, or Can you give us an example of how that
Yeah,
might?
it's 3D audio or spatial audio. If your listeners or your viewers have tried the Valve Index, the best audio in a VR headset, and so it's basically pretty similar, very similar to what we're doing, or entirely similar. So yeah, you have spatial audio where you hear, you're hearing in 3D.
Yeah. And what about the field of view?
The
How
field of view.
so are you?
It's
Is that
114.
114? Okay.
Is this a highly, what we can talk about what that means. I don't know if this is a highly technical audience who
Let's
knows
talk
all
about
about
what
it, or if we
that
should
means.
explain.
Yeah, please do.
So the field of view is what you're seeing in front. So when you're in a virtual reality headset, you're sort of being you're inside, and everything that you're seeing is in interaction with the digital environment. And so the field of view is how large what you're seeing in front of you is. And so field of view is measured diagonally across. And so the field of view is 114.
Excellent. Thanks for explaining that.
And so today, most virtual reality headsets, they range, I think some are in the low 90s, some can go up, the index is larger, I think 120. And then if you compare, say, with the field of view that you might look at for augmented reality, like a Magic Leap or a HoloLens 1 or 2 from Microsoft, the field of view would be smaller.
Yeah, that's right. No, I can't wait to try that out. And also, I was on the Microsoft VR store as well. Obviously, that's another distribution channel of yours and partner, a large partner as well. So I noticed they've got exclusive gamer coupons actually on offer today. I don't know if that's something you're going to be offering in the future with new games with Steam and Valve, or is that a relevance to the conversation at the moment here, or is that a big?
I'll tell you I'll tell you a couple of things that are super relevant. So a lot of people ask us, like, well, what content is available? What content can you get on it? It's a Windows mixed reality. It's a Windows mixed reality headset. What does that mean? So what that means is it is inside out tracked. So you have the cameras on the outside. You don't have to set up any extra base stations or any extra cameras.
And just stop there for a minute, Joan, because that is real important, I think, because you set it up in your bedroom, you could set it up in your lounge room, you
just plug and play. You plug it in.
If your mum's going, please go out of here, the kitchen, you can go anywhere. It's I think it's a great attraction. So keep on going. Sorry, just wanted to.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah. So Microsoft was one of the first to do inside out tracking, and so then just if you take it wherever you're going with your computer, so you plug it in. And now this is the first Windows mixed reality headset to have 4 cameras. So that goes from 2 cameras to 4 cameras now. And so there's cameras at the front and cameras on the side. That means, and we also have new controllers for it as well. And so the additional cameras improve the overall tracking, but also give you more volume that you can move your controllers and where the cameras can still see them. So if you're playing bow and arrow games, or you're throwing something in Half-Life Alyx, it just gives you more freedom of movement. So that's exciting. So and then going to what does it mean in terms of content? Well, Windows Mixed Reality has a bridge from Windows Mixed Reality to Steam, so to Steam VR. So you're able to access all your great enterprise content, your gaming content, any of your content that's on Steam VR through this bridge with Windows Mixed Reality. So you can access anything that you might have in Windows Mixed Reality or any content that you would have in Steam VR. So that's really exciting in terms of having access to content. The biggest news that came out recently is that there is a new game for Microsoft Flight Simulator. The Microsoft Flight Simulator game for PC is released on August 18th. And they now announced that there will be VR support available as well, which is amazing. You think about Microsoft Flight Simulator in a VR headset. It's super, super exciting. And in a VR headset like HP Reverb G2 that has incredibly high resolution, the reviewers are saying it's like, nearly photorealistic resolution and overall immersive experience with the IPG Adjust and with the amazing new lenses and with the high render target, which is really, really exciting. So that game is coming this fall. The launch of the VR support for Microsoft Flight Simulator will be timed with the launch of the HP Reverb G2. So we're really, really excited about that announcement. And the market reaction has been fantastic for that announcement.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That's a really good fit. So let's talk about I just wanted to flip back to the early days of how you used to get queasy. And actually, the first thing I ever tried in VR, I nearly fell on a coffee table because I was on a roller coaster. Unfortunately, they never told me to sit down, right? And that is the most mind-bending experience I did like 5 years ago, maybe.
The first VR experience I had was also a roller coaster. But you know what I would say? I want to say a couple of things about that. One, if I go on a regular roller coaster, I also get queasy. So I'm not sure if it's VR who's at fault or it's the roller coaster who's at fault.
Glad you said that. It's not just me.
Of course you get queasy. I mean, but don't you get queasy so there's a couple of things that make you queasy, and it has to do with like the disconnect between your body and your mind, and your body thinking that you're moving, but then you're not really moving. Some of that, but there's a lot of different ways to decrease that. It has to do with the performance of the computer, if there's any lag in it, the GPU in the computer sometimes can have to do with the headset, and it can have to do with the type of motion that is being created in the content as well. And so there's a couple different factors coming together that can increase the likelihood of being queasy or not increase the likelihood. But then I think there's also an element of it, like, that some people get seasick and some people get car sick and some people rarely get seasick or car sick. It would only be in a very extreme situation that they might, right? So like I never get car sick unless, you're going for like windy road for 2 hours in a row, right? Or I never get seasick unless it's really, really, really extreme conditions and I'm downstairs on the boat, not even, outside. So I'm pretty much the same in VR. Like I pretty much never feel VR sick, except for very, very extreme circumstances. And so I think some people though might be more susceptible to feeling sick in VR and other people are not. And so there's a combination, like where some people are more susceptible, and you want to have a content experience that's been optimized to decrease that, and you want to make sure that you're running on hardware that is optimized to decrease that as well.
I've got a fun question for you while we're talking about roller coasters.
Oh gosh.
I think the longest time that I've been in a headset, and I think would be 3.5, 4 hours, and I think that was a long time for me, but that is
a bit of time.
And that was testing out a new headset. I just got completely lost in the content.
What kind of experiences were you in? That's great. I love that.
Kitchens, shooting games.
Oh, like a job simulator? Were you a cook?
All that sort of stuff.
An
cool. IKEA kind of experience, we're placing furniture and
so you're doing a whole bunch of different
range of different things actually. And usually I could be in there for an hour. But, and I read one of the bloggers on LinkedIn the other week, and she was saying that, and you would know her actually, but I won't bring up their name, that I think she was in a headset for possibly 6 to 10 hours. I think that's what I remember. And I'm going, oh my God, this girl's a miracle maker. How long have you been in, do you have to test these things out and on a regular basis? And I mean, how many hours have you been in a headset? That was my question. Over the last
I've been in a headset for months without exiting.
When are you coming out of the reality?
I think people that tend to be in a headset for the most hours in a row, somebody like maybe a tilt brush artist who's creating something really amazing, or somebody who is, gets really into a game like Half-Life Alyx and just stays in there, or somebody, you know, is using it for training, like enterprise training, or is teaching a class. You know, when I've done some of, like, it can be a Can XR, go in and you hang out in a social VR, and it's in a museum of other realities. You hang out in a social VR environment and you interact with people and you walk the red carpet, and then you can walk in and go into a different an environment, one or another. Probably I would say, but for me, I probably spent the most time in VR in a row, more likely at events, you know, but you know, something like a Sundance or a Tribeca. This is back when we had live events where, but then I would, you know, you would have a break in between each different experience. But if I'm there, you know, 4 days in a row and see every single experience totaled, that would be a lot of hours.
Yeah, so it can be done. I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it, I think.
Yeah, it's well, it depends. Yeah,
that's my point. I guess I'm trying to make is that, you know, although I had a roller coaster of experience 5 years ago, it was probably in Google Cardboard for all I know. I think it might have been, actually. That's how bad I was. But, you know, let's move on from there. So with the COVID issues with location-based entertainment and the challenges that are around this, you know, locations sprung up in the US in the last sort of 4 years. We don't need to list them all, but, you know, I really enjoyed, you know, going to those experiences. And I've, you know, some in New York from the Void in the early days at Madame Tussauds. I was a little bit freaked out about that one though, to be honest. But
you're freaked out by the Void?
It was the Ghostbusters one. Yeah, it was little bit freaky when you were, you know, trying to navigate the wall without falling.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they also have that plank part, and they have, you know, that where you have to go over the plank, and
there's a few mind-bending moments. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yes, for sure. Okay.
But you know, there's that style of location-based entertainment, and then you actually have the real roller coaster one. Actually, right? I was in Shanghai last year, and you could go from the top of the communications tower in a VR headset, and I'm going.
You did that?
Maybe I'm too old for this. No, I didn't. The line was too long anyway, thank God.
Oh, that's a good excuse. That's a good excuse.
Yeah, that's my excuse today. But
you know what? You know what I did? I did in, what is it called? Where was that? Nanchang in China. It was, I think, the biggest VR park in the world. Okay. I did the one. It's a hand kind of. It's like a robot arm, and it moves you in all these different directions, like this, and you know, this is you, and this is the robot arm, and you're going like this, and you're going like this, and you're going. That was probably one of the more crazy ones that I've done. Yeah. And then in it, well, your visual is a roller coaster, and so it's like that double whammy that you just talked about.
Okay.
I actually didn't feel sick when I did that though.
Yeah.
I was okay. I was fine. And then, but another crazy one I did was at Comic-Con, where the Amazon Prime Studios brought Jack Ryan, and they had this it was kind of like 5-part in a row that you were in the headset for. It was HV backpack and then a headset. And you jumped out of a plane. Actually, it was a helicopter, so you felt like you were skydiving. And then you immediately went into the plank experience, and then you immediately went into a shootout, and then you did a zip line, and you're still in VR, and then you did a driving simulation. Okay. That was pretty good. It was like really crazy. I say it's like one of the most. It was built by Media Monks, and I say it was one of the most ambitious, because it was 5 days at Comic-Con outside, and each experience was essentially its own VR experience. And they also had a live actors and a kind of like immersive theater, and you were getting recruited to be a Jack Ryan recruit, a zip, you know. So a lot of people have done a plank or a shootout or a driving simulation, but to do all of those plus the, you know, getting jumping out of the airplane or the helicopter, plus doing a zip line in VR without stopping in between, was pretty ambitious and drove a lot of adrenaline. It was really fun. Yeah.
So thanks for the chat about, because it is all about experience at the end of the day. It's good to touch on that. I did want to talk to you about the other product behind you, which is the backpack. When that first version came out, maybe 4 years ago, the Omen, I think it was, that I thought that was, oh my word, I thought that I had to get on one of those immediately, you know, because you could disconnect from everywhere, right? Tell us about the evolution of that product and you know, where it's being used? And because I know it's being, you said, used in enterprise and consumer.
The first backpack that you're talking about was the Omen X, and it did come out a few years ago. And the target was gamers, and with the idea, you know, use it to play your games and run around, you know, together with your headset, and then it would give you the experience of, you know, free roam, but the highest resolution, high GPU, and you would have, you know, that amazing visual experience and immersive experience as you can move around freely. So that was the first backpack that HP made. And then after we released it, and I wasn't at the company yet, but so after the team released it, the enterprise customers started calling and saying, hey, we want one also. And so then we released one for enterprise customers. The original gamer one had GeForce 1080 inside, and the original one for enterprise had a Quadro P5200 inside. And so, and that was called the HP Z VR backpack. And that one, you know, it was being used for enterprise training. It was being used by automotive. It was being used by architecture, engineering, and construction. And you could use it like docked, you know, kind of like at your desk, kind of like this, and, you know, plug in for design and create. And then you could take it out of the dock, put it on your back with a harness, and move around freely. So for example, you could design and create for, say, an automotive experience, but then when you want to walk around to see it, or an architecture, engineering, construction experience, you go walking around. And it also became really popular with location-based entertainment. And so, you know, places like Zero Latency or Dreamscape or So Real in China, or Spaces in the US, or Nomadic, or, you know, a whole bunch in Europe, and then a lot at the film festivals as well, you know, or places like in Europe, like Park Playground or Veronia or Vex, Vertigo, they're, you know, a whole bunch of them, VR studios in the US, they're all using the backpacks. And so then what happened was, you know, we wanted to, you know, we wanted to create the best of both worlds instead of having two separate products. And so we took, you know, what was great about the enterprise one, which was more around, you know, warranty and commercial, you know, some of the commercial aspects to it, and then put the new GeForce in it at the time. So that was RTX 2080. So now it's, you know, super, super powerful, and mainly for, you know, in a B2B environment. So LBE and training and AEC.
And what about, do you classify museums as location-based entertainment experiences as well?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So we've worked with, like, you know, for example, Marshmallow Laser Feast, who's done some amazing projects at the Tribeca Film Festival, and won Tribeca Film Festival with some of their projects, like Tree Hugger, and then that's turned into, we've worked with them actually in a few projects. One was at the Saatchi Gallery. It was called Oceans of Air, and it was all about connecting with nature, and, you know, sort of breathing in and breathing out and feeling nature, using the backpacks. And then it was so beautiful, like they really created this amazing experience where it was as much fun to experience VR as to watch other people experience VR. So as you're walking through the Saatchi Gallery, you saw this beautiful screen behind the people, and you would, on the screen, you know, full wall screen, you would see what they were seeing in the headset. And it was just so gorgeous to watch people kind of moving around in the backpack, in the headset, and with this beautiful screen behind them. And that, of course, got, you know, attracted more people to want to experience it. And yeah, Marshmallow Laser Feast is a great company to work with. And then we worked with them with their project Sweet Dreams, where you actually tasted, you know, we talk about all the different senses, like in VR, you have the visual sense, you have the audio, in some cases you have haptics where you touch something, and then they actually had people tasting food while you're in VR and you wearing the backpack and moving around. So very, you know, it's being, you know, I would say that the technology is providing experiences, and those experiences can be for enterprise, and they have strong ROI because you're training more people in virtual reality by using simulations, and then the retention for people is higher in virtual reality. So, you know, it's VR enables you to learn, to create, to collaborate, and to connect. And so we're working with different groups where the ROI comes from, how much money you're saving and how much efficiency you're bringing and how much productivity you're bringing around creation or around learning. And then there's other experiences where we're working with people who are creating these beautiful artistic movements that have people thinking differently about the world and about themselves. And so it's all about that connection there.
And what
And then,
about
of course, remote collaboration is huge right now, with all of us being remote. And so whether it's learning remotely, creating remotely, or connecting remotely, it's remote collaboration is incredibly important right now.
What's your thoughts on the future of education? Obviously, a lot of even the primary schools, high schools, colleges are completely unprepared. In Los Angeles, it was reported a couple of weeks ago that only 35% of high school students actually had even been back to school, let alone logged into an online class, right? That's pretty low. I'm sure that's changing on a daily basis on the increase, we hope. Even in the creative arts field, usually it's an in-person class. It might be the New York Film Academy as an example. I'm just picking that one out because it's actually filmmaking. How do you see, HP driving education? Because it must be such an enormous opportunity for you.
I mean, when school ended, in June or July, and I guess in the northern hemisphere, about nearly 90% of students were not physically at their schools around the world, and so that's a huge impact, right? And it really shifted one week to the next, where one week we were for the most part having school in a more traditional way, and then a week or two later, no longer, right? So we've been working really closely with across the entire education field. There had already been certain cases and certain instances of schools where they already were doing a lot in virtual reality, right? So an example is Colorado State University in their medical school. They have 100 computers on the ceiling and then 100 VR headsets coming down. And what they teach there is they teach anatomy. Instead of doing a traditional cadaver lab, they're having people learn about anatomy in virtual reality. There's a lot of reasons. It's more efficient. It's more efficient. It's not as expensive. You can have a repeat and learn again and learn again and learn again. And they were looking at radiology, learning about radiology in virtual reality, because looking at a 3D scan gives more information and enables the medical student to learn more. So, and now, something like that, they're not showing up physically at school anymore. And so they're a lot of the universities are looking at, well, how do they send the equipment to the students so that the students can have the equipment at home and keep up with their learning. Another school we work with is called Presale University. They give their students a laptop and a VR headset, at the beginning as their launch kit when they start in certain degree programs. And so they're all, and so that means that they're able to go into VR, do their learning. They're in some cases that they're studying computer science or animation or something where, but then they also can be connected and collaborate in VR. And then there's other schools. I've spoken at Vancouver and Lethbridge and a whole bunch of schools where they are going into VR. Platforms like Engage or platforms like AltSpace, and having the entire class in virtual reality. And in some cases, they're partnering with something like a Victory XR and to learn about anatomy. In other cases, they're interacting around 3D assets. So there's a lot of change happening. A lot going on in that space. Another company that's interested in that space is called Spaces. They were an LBE company in LA, and they still are an LBE company in LA, but they saw what was happening and rapidly built up an API to connect into video conferencing. And so it gives somebody like a teacher the opportunity to teach a class in virtual reality. So the teachers can teach a math class, or they can bring in 3D assets, they can be an avatar, and then everyone on the call, the people on the call don't need to have a VR headset. So only one person, the presenter, is having the VR headset. And so that doesn't require as many people to have the technology. That's a really cool one to check out. I recommend that for everyone to check out.
And then the students basically log in through a web interface to view their
Yeah,
content?
the students log into Zoom or WebEx or Teams or Skype or whatever they were going to log into anyway. Just, it's like, how do you keep people engaged, right? And so this is a way to keep students engaged by, instead of just showing like your backdrop, you can then hold up your 3D asset and you can change the backdrop. You can be in Egypt all of a sudden and showing that. So there's lots of different things that are happening, but I think, we're still early seeing what the future of education. I think in some ways that these were trends that were happening and now they're accelerating. And then in other, we're learning new ways but in a very rapid compressed time frame instead of, evolving over a longer time period.
Time for one more subject, which is a dear subject of mine because I used to work for Warner's for 10 years in live music. I want to know what's happening with Coachella. You guys were involved in a large dome project with Intel over the last couple of years. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because that was a great experience that I've enjoyed over the last couple of years there. Looking at the future of where Coachella and those sort of larger festivals are going with virtual festivals, Tomorrowland just announced an interest, launched over the last few days, right, with wild reviews, great reviews. You should check out the viewers I'm talking about. If you're interested in checking that out online. It's quite an interesting case study. But what are your thoughts on music? What are you going to do about Coachella? Do you have any plans?
It's up to Coachella, obviously, to decide what they want to do and have people get involved in different ways, right? So, but I think there's been a lot of really interesting things happening in music. From concerts that you can go to in Next VR in virtual reality to what Fortnite has been doing with lots of different interesting concerts this year. And I'm sure they have a lot more amazing things coming. The Wave VR is an LA company who's had some great experiences and concerts. I think they have the one this weekend, but they've had John Legend and they've had Tavoy. They've had really, really cool stuff where you get to be at the concert, right? And so there's just been a lot of interesting ways to experience concerts in a new way. And I think that that's going to be important. When you think about the future of location-based entertainment, in some ways, and you think about movie theaters and you think about theme parks and concerts, some of those environments traditionally have been a lot of people coming together. And so, in the short term, medium term, maybe we won't be able to do that. And then there's other places where, you're bringing, say, 6 people together. Okay, maybe it's more possible to do something like that, like in like the Void that we were talking about, that you're only bringing 4 to 6 to 8 people together. So maybe that's more likely, to come back faster. Maybe, we're starting to see them, places like that already come back. So I think the virtual concert is probably going to be fairly important for the next period. And so the great things that companies like the Wave are doing, like Fortnite's doing, even Pokemon had a virtual, don't leave your house. Pokemon was so famous for, like, it was amazing because it got people walking outside, right? It got everyone outside and got everyone walking. Well, now the new Pokemon festival, don't leave your house and let's still have a Pokemon festival. It's interesting. I think what's really important with all of this is to see what companies are able to be agile and flexible and change their ways of doing business to meet the moment. Yeah. And what companies are able to continue to offer an experience for their audiences despite what's happening in the world, and what companies are able to offer something that provides connection and happiness and thought-provoking. It depends what the brand is and what you're about, what you're creating, right? But what company is able to extend that into the home and gives people that pop of pleasure, or that awe, or that, you know, that just that joyous moment, or, you know, continues to make you laugh and cry, and you know, you have all of those feelings. Like, what companies are able to say, okay, yes, we know we've done business this way for X years, but this is the way to do business right now, and let's try new things, and, you know, if it fails, it fails, but let's keep going forward, and let's give audiences what they're looking for. And so I think that is what this is. You know, it's a tremendously hard time for a lot of people. It's, you know, unprecedented times. Unemployment is really high, pretty polarized politically. There's, you know, just a lot going on. It's a lot of people are, you know, there's tragedy around our healthcare. You know, there's essential care workers looking out for us, government officials looking out for us, healthcare workers looking out for us. But you know, different varying rates of the different places around the country being able to reopen or not reopen. And so, you know, in through all this, I think companies that, you know, really are able to figure out how to meet people where they are and provide what people are looking for right now are going to be the ones who come out, who end up best serving their audiences.
Great comment, actually. I really like that. And look, just to finish up, any final comments, or is there a website you want to point people to for a pre-sale here?
Sure. So for this amazing HP, we do like a knife sale.
Yeah, go for it.
HP Reverb G2. You can go to hp.com/reverb for the pre-orders.
Fantastic. And my thought of the day after this interview was experience and interactivity for, you know, brands, and is one of the most important connections that you can make at the moment. So thanks very much for bringing that up, Joanna. And look, you have a great day. Thanks for your time today. It was an animated interview as well. So I love your enthusiasm for the industry, and thank you very much for everything.
Thanks for inviting me on. It was great to be here with you. I love your enthusiasm for the industry as well, and all your experiences.
Thanks. Yeah, but let's not talk about the roller coaster again.
I mean, I know that I feel sick on any roller coaster, so that's how it is.
Good. All right. Thanks very much, Joanna.